Hey, everybody. We are back with another episode of Shannon the Slayer, and I have the incredible Jackie Dallas with us here today, and I cannot wait for what she is going to bring to you to the table today because I had the pleasure of meeting Jackie. I'm getting the goosebumps just thinking about meeting you. Like, such a good person, beautiful inside and out, and I am just thrilled she is here with us today, and just you're in for a treat. I kid you not. When I met Jackie in which convention was it?
It's
The
a MegaCon in
MegaCon.
Florida.
Yep,
Yeah.
MegaCon convention. We were at a table together and we just had a great time, and I got to talking with her, and she's been in all the things. If you don't know Jackie, it's time you figure out who Jackie is, because she's not only talented and beautiful and so sweet, but she's moving up in the world. So without further ado, Jackie Dallas, everybody. Jackie, thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining us
you. My
today.
God, that intro. I'm just gonna bring you everywhere. Yeah, throw you in a room before I walk in. That's amazing.
I'm down. I am down for this. So, Jackie, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about you. Like, how'd you start in acting? Where'd you come from? Just all the details. Let us know.
Oh gosh, how much time do we get? I am well, I guess I'll start at the very beginning. No. The only big transition I would say is that I grew up in Florida. Asian, went to medical school, became a doctor, and then about 10 some years ago decided to transition into the creatives and moved to California, decided to pursue acting, see what would happen. And 10 years later, here we are. I've had the opportunity to work on a dozen or so different hit shows. I've done a few movies, worked with some Academy Award winning actors. Get to travel around doing conventions, meeting fans and fabulous people like you. So honestly, I can't complain. That's kind of where I am now, what I do.
It's so cool. And I knew you were a doctor. Please. I am so fascinated by this. I know there's a few actors that have been doctors as well, but tell me
Mhm,
your journey on that. Like, what did you study? All the things,
mhm.
Jackie. All the things. Come on, tell me.
I mean, it's medicine was always kind of my like growing up, that was always what I was going to do. I think in
Right.
part, like, Asian parents want you to become either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And also, I come from a family of doctors. So that was kind of just ingrained into the expectations of my life. Like my
Right.
dad was a family practitioner. My mom was a pediatrician. My uncle's an interventional radiologist. I have another uncle who's an oncologist. My sister's an OB-GYN. Like it's just everyone is doing it, right?
Okay,
It
gotcha.
almost wasn't yeah, it wasn't even really much of a decision. It's like asking someone, "Hey, what are you gonna do after elementary school? You're gonna go to middle school. What do you do after middle school? You go to high
Wow.
school. After high school, what do you do? You go to college. After college, what do you do? You go to med school." It was just like the next sequence of events, right?
Right.
And I found myself doing it, and it was, I'll say it was natural to me. Like it came easily. I studied microbiology in college, got a degree in that. Um, I don't know, my brain is kind of like science wired, I guess, genetically, but I didn't like it.
Okay.
It's one of those
Yeah.
things like, what's the phrase? It's like just because you're hung like a horse. So
Right.
I was like, I don't care if I'm getting straight A's in this. I just don't like doing it. But let's see what happens, right? And it became this like, it's gonna get better kind of a thing where med school, sure, it
Oh.
sucks, but it's school, right? Like, wait till you start working with the patients. You get to your clinicals, you're like, okay, well, this sucks too. It's like, well, maybe I'm just not in the right rotation. And I don't mean to like talk down, like, I mean, medicine is an amazing career. My husband is still in medicine. I mean, love him to bits, and he is so good at his job. It's just I
Yeah.
feel like there's things that we're cut out for and that there's things that we're not, you know? Like he
Absolutely.
looks at me,
Yeah.
he's like, "I could never be an actor." I was like, "That's good, baby, because I need you to keep doing what you're doing."
That's right.
Um, but like, yeah, so I got through all of that. I did some research. did an internship in general surgery because I really thought I wanted to be a surgeon because I'm super like overachiever,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
realized quickly that lifestyle is so demanding and so high stress. Switched over to pathology thinking, well, maybe I just need a different field, maybe I'll go
Yeah,
into a
yeah,
different specialty. Pathology for a while, and it was okay, lifestyle's a lot better, but I wasn't jumping out of bed in the morning, hitting the snooze button one too many times. And so I
mm,
just kind of was like, man, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Right.
yeah, yeah.
It just so happened that at that time, my husband was getting a job in California. He was doing his residency at Stanford. So, medicine, like residency is a lot of years. And so we were looking at a lot of years to live apart potentially. And I was like, man, that's not a
Yeah,
relationship, right? You hear of a lot of people, a lot of doctors, but a lot of people having to pick between like, relationships or careers, right?
yeah.
I picked a relationship.
Oh,
So moved to California and figured an MD is a great backup plan. But if I have to start over, why not try something new? And fell
okay.
into, I don't know, like a little, discovered there was a little acting circle in California, right? Like, who'd have thought?
Nice. Yeah, yeah,
In San Francisco area, there was a huge commercial scene, and so that's kinda where I got my feet wet. I'd always grown up loving acting. I did, like, children's theater camps and, drama class and, after school theater club, drama club, and so I always
yeah,
loved doing it. I just never thought it was, like, a real thing. And then little by little, between Chicago, which is where I was living before I moved to California, kind of starting to get my feet wet with like, I don't know, learning about background roles and indie films and short films and student films. And I was like, hey, this is really fun. Maybe I'll get back into this. Moved to California and just said, hey, you know what? If I'm going to do it, let's do it. And
Oh
did it.
man, I love that. I love that. So, when you were first of all, let me
Mhm.
just say I'm so proud of you for following your heart. I just have to
Wow.
say that because so many of us don't. We have these callings and feelings, and a lot of the times we ignore them. And like you said, oh, it'll get better. It'll get better.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, are you sure about that? And when you keep pushing those feelings aside, you're jeopardizing your overall health physically
Yeah.
and mentally because you're not passionate about what you do. You don't like waking up in
Mhm.
the morning. You don't like it. And then the pressure of being a surgeon, oh my god, I agree with you. I would not. I'd be like having like heart palpitations in the middle of the night just thinking
Oh.
about that. But going through your journey, I'm sure that too, like just all that experience gives you a lot to work with in the acting world too. But
Mhm.
I just love the fact that you said just F it. I'm going all in and this is what it is. Like we are doing this thing and you
Mhm.
chose love. I love that. I love it. You not only chose love like for your relationship, but love for yourself in the
Yeah.
sense of
Yeah.
your passions and things. So it's love all around and I love that. I just wanted to say that. Don't know if I made any
Oh.
sense whatsoever, but I had to get that out there. And so my next question for you would be,
Mhm.
okay, so you got here, you got to LA, doing all the things now. What was your first step? Because you were going in cold, right? Like,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
you
mhm.
hear right away, you're like, oh, you need an agent, you need them, all the things, right? What was your big
Yeah.
move?
So I would say the biggest thing for me was I did just so much research in my spare time about the industry, about acting, about, just the business of it. Because like you said, I was coming in cold. I didn't, aside from like drama club, I didn't study acting. I didn't go to like an acting school or a film school. I don't know any actors. All of my friends were doctors and nerds.
Right.
So I didn't grow up with it. I mean, I grew up in Florida on the East Coast, which, Hollywood is like a fantasy world, right? Something that you're born into because you're rich and famous and beautiful and just it was so out of I don't know, out of reality for me.
Right.
But yeah, moving to California, I kind of just started Googling. Honestly, there's so much, information and resources on the internet. Um, I will say not all of it is correct and not
Yes.
all of it is good,
That's
but
true.
it's a start, and I think that was like a big thing for me. Like go when I came to California, I wasn't just here like, okay, this is my dream, this is my passion, like trust me, like believe in me. It wasn't this like I want it like served to me. It was very much like,
Yeah.
how can I fit into this, like, how can I be a cog in this wheel? Does that make sense?
Nice.
Because it is this
Absolutely.
multi-billion-dollar industry, right?
Yeah.
So why would they take a chance on someone who has no experience, no knowledge, no training? Um, so yeah, I started off doing whatever I could grasp. It was background roles, it was student films, short films, just talking to people, finding Facebook groups and messaging people, asking a lot of questions. I was probably that really annoying person the first few weeks, like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
No.
What is a slate? What's a headshot? Can I take it on my iPhone? Like just starting from the very beginning. But, I got the answers I needed. I got the materials I needed. I was pointed in the directions I needed to be pointed in. And, little by little, week after week, month after month, year after year, I just was able to kind of grow. Do you know what I mean? And every
Yeah.
time I learned something, I could apply it and further hone my skills and my portfolio. And from there, I was able to get a local commercial agent up in the Bay Area, and
Nice.
so much easier than getting one in LA. But just baby steps there, and I think those were my first steps, just kind of getting my feet wet, learning more about the industry, making friends,
Yeah.
network connections. I mean, that sounds so formal. Really just making friends in the industry is so important.
And speaking of friends, have you had um, any instances where it was kind of hard making friends, especially being in LA area? Is the vibe different from Florida? Was it harder or was it actually like everybody's welcoming and yeah,
Um, it's different. It's different.
yeah.
I won't necessarily compare it to Florida because I wasn't even, in the acting
Oh,
mindset
that's true.
then.
That's true. Yeah.
But, like, I'll say, like, let's say for example, San Francisco versus LA, right? San
Right.
Francisco is a much smaller market as far as acting goes. It tends to be a lot of non-union, a lot of commercial, industrial work, and then, if we do any, like, TV shows or blockbusters, it really is just kinda background roles, they cast everything out of LA, and then they bring it up for the establishing shots or whatever. But by doing that, like, you get to see the same faces over and over again because it is such a small community. There's only maybe a couple hundred of us at most, whereas in LA, it's like thousands of us, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you get to see the same faces over and over again. So you really do kind of develop a friendship for better or for worse. You see each
Oh,
other at the same like casting calls, you go to the casting office, it's like the same 15, 20 people, your type, your demographic, your age range. Um, if you do background roles, you see the same core people over and over again. So you just kind of turn into this reunion where you're like, all right, you're over
oh,
here that day. All right, I'm over here this day. Let's meet up for lunch and have, whatever they're serving today together.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, you do make friends and you look out for each other. And the one thing I will say the culture is different about is I feel like in the Bay Area, generally speaking, everyone is rooting for the other person, because we're all kind of starting in the same level playing field, right? We're all trying to get to the LA level, but we're all still in the Bay. You know what I mean? We're still
Yeah.
doing the same commercials, and there's so much work there for so relatively few actors that if you don't get this one, it's cool, the next one's lined up for you, It's like there's plenty of work to go
Mhm.
around, really. You get to LA, it's a little bit more competitive, right? And
Okay.
I think the difference is a lot of actors in LA have been here for a while. They've been doing it for a while, and LA is such a bigger hustle, right?
Yeah.
So, I think you encounter more people, and I hate saying this, but a little more jaded or a little bit more, starting to feel the pressure
That
of,
makes sense.
I'm getting older, I've been doing this for a couple of years, why hasn't things worked out for me? So, I understand that mentality too, and you will ultimately, you will find your circle, you'll find your tribe, so to speak,
Yeah.
the people
Yeah.
who will root for you, and you guys can celebrate each other's wins and give each other a heads up on things here and there, like, "Oh, yeah, I went out for this commercial the other day," or, "This casting director is really nice," or, like, we do
Yeah.
talk, we do help each other out where we can, but I will say it's not as, like, open arms welcoming, so it does take a little bit of time, but I think that just like anywhere else, if you're a good person, you're pleasant to be around, you're fun to work with, and you're not a gatekeeper yourself, you're going to find the people that want to work with you and want to be friends with you and want to hang out with you. And, that's kind of where you find it. I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, it's beautiful. I was like, "Oh, thank goodness." Because first of all, like, I've told my people here, they've heard it probably
Mhm.
1,000 times by now, but we're like I wanna say, like, we're all a team. Like, this can't
Mhm.
be you can't be all about yourself all the time. Like, not
Yeah.
every part is for you. It's you're all working to build a story, whatever that story is, and you're not
Mhm.
always right for this story over here, but somebody else might be, and they're
Mhm.
trying to chase their dreams too. Why on earth would anybody no, and I understand, like, people being jaded and all that, and it breaks my heart because
Mhm. Yeah.
if they work on this a little bit more,
Yeah.
then they'll understand, like, it's just not my time yet, it's not my time
Mhm.
is coming, and just keep repeating that, keep going, and you age. When you age, I try to think of it like a fine wine, you only get better with time, okay? And you need in acting, you need real people of all ages. It
Mhm.
never ends. So your time is literally always now, except you just might not book the part right now. And having the right group of people that surround you, I'm getting the goosebump pimples again. Ha- Having that community is
Mhm.
everything because when you are feeling down, guess what? You can go to your group of friends and you can get that extra boost of motivation because they're going to be there to support you because they know what it's like. They are going to root you
Absolutely.
forward. So
Yeah.
I am just so glad that you found like people that are beautiful just like you because it always scares me when good people go out there and they're searching and they're trying to find like where they're supposed to be and then they get attacked by
Mhm.
people in the same community and then it turns them off because it's like, well,
Mhm.
this is toxic. I don't want to be near this. But there's two different groups, right?
Mhm.
There's the
Mhm.
positive, like, happy people who are pursuing their passions, their dreams, and know that at the end of the day, like, their time's coming. It's just a matter of when.
Mhm.
But the others are kind of like they've just had it and they're like at that breaking point. So they do get
Mhm.
jaded and
Mhm.
jealous and it's sad. But speaking of the mindset,
Mhm.
you're a big proponent on that too, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
I
Gotta have
thought
positive,
so.
positive, just a it sounds so cheesy to say it out loud. It's like a positive attitude. I
I
feel like
know,
it's like one of
right?
those, like, teacher posters in the background. But mindset is so important, it really, really is so important because one, like attracts like, I really believe in the power of attraction there, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to hang out with someone who's just like a Debbie Downer and just, like, complaining all the time. Also, like, subconsciously, we can all identify desperation, you
Mm,
know? And it's not really nice, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of uncomfortable, I would say. And you start to question this desperation that someone might be like, feeding. Are they wanting to know you for you, or are they looking to just get something out of you? And that also is very common in Hollywood, where you can go to these networking events or something and people will be like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And if you
right.
don't say something that's like up to par with what they're looking for, they're just like, "Okay, thank you, bye-bye," and you're just like, "What?"
Wow. Oh my
Like, we can talk
gosh.
about other things, you know what I mean? So it's interesting, like, that dynamic. So I actually know a lot of people who are very established and successful in their line of work in this industry, and they're just like, "Oh, I work in banking," or "I'm a
Nice.
I'm
I
I'm
love it.
I'm an artist," like, they just keep it that kinda vague, and they're just like they see, like, does the person there are they still, like, interested in just talking to you as a human being, or are they just
Yeah.
looking for something?
Right.
So,
Right.
it's an interesting
Wow.
dynamic, but if you have a positive mindset and you're just like you said, your time is gonna come, right? There's so many like, dude, if you wanna get inspired, Google, like, actors and actresses who, like, made it later in life, or, like, how long has someone been hustling, these
Yeah.
overnight, like, where did they come from? They've been hustling for 10 something years, you go on their
Yeah.
IMDb, their first credit is, like, 2000 or 1900. I hate saying this, like, 1900s, I hate it when people say that, but it's like, it's so funny. Um, I think for me, like, the positive mindset, I think, I left medicine. So for me, it's like that was either the stupidest decision I could ever make or just the most hopeful decision I could ever make. And so I choose to believe that it was all worth it. Like, there's gonna be something here that makes that decision not dumb.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do. There's no going back, there's really no going back for me. So
Yeah.
I think, I think this is where I'm supposed to be. I wake up, I find happiness every day. Even on my worst day, it's still beautiful, I could still say like, "Wow, I got through that." But you know what? Tomorrow, I'm still gonna be excited to wake up and do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I do. I
So
do. That's
yeah.
awesome. So awesome. I love it so much. And so when you do have a bad day though, what is your like go-to on how to break that cycle, and just do you do anything to up your mindset if you're having that icky kind of day, or like what's your process?
I have some wine. No, I
I'm
need a
coming
lot of
over.
wine. Um, honestly, for me, it's like if I go to bed and restart, I think a new day is fresh for me. I'm not I don't like to dwell. I just like,
Yeah.
and that's a coping strategy I learned from medicine also, because a lot of days are really stressful. You have a lot of bad days,
Oh,
and you learn to detach, right? You have to detach,
right.
not because you're a sociopath, but because, like, you have to. You can't be burdened by, the things that can go wrong or the things that don't go right? So I think I learned that coping mechanism early on. And so that comes in really handy for me.
Wow.
Um, acknowledging that sometimes things are just beyond your control, you know,
Mhm.
we all have bad days. Sometimes things get rescheduled, things get bumped, things don't pan out, you get edited out, you don't get chosen, and there's so many things beyond your control. And when you learn to stop taking things personally, I think that really, really opens your eyes to, one, not being so hard on yourself, but also you learn more about the industry. Like, I watch shows in the last 2 years. It's been really, really slow, right? Between the strike, and we
Right.
never really recovered from the pandemic and things.
Yeah.
So I felt really fortunate to be able to have worked on 2 really big projects, like, during that time, when I know a lot of people weren't working on anything at all. So I was like, "Oh, at least I have this. At least I have this."
Yeah.
Fast forward, and these 2 projects, one on Amazon Prime, one on Apple Plus, they both get released, and all of my scenes got cut from both of those back to back. So, these things happen, like, it
I
totally
know.
happens, but yeah, I was really bummed, because I was promoting
Yeah.
it, friends are watching it, they're
Oh,
like, "Hey,
no.
I didn't see you. Are you in this episode?" I was like, "I thought I was." But then, I watch it. I'm not in it. But then I took myself out of it, like I've worked on dozens of shows and I've watched, hundreds, thousands of shows.
Yeah.
So I'm like, from an editing perspective, from a directing perspective, like I get it. That scene wasn't necessary, And it's like
Yeah.
it's a fluff scene, right? Like, we've already established something about the character. We've already established something about her arc. Would I have loved to have been on there? Sure, but that would have been purely selfish because that scene
Yeah.
didn't need to be there. It didn't contribute anything? So when you take yourself out of it, you start to recognize that it's not personal. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yes,
helps.
oh my gosh, that was solid gold, people. If you take away anything, take away that little piece of information and place it in
Mhm.
your brain forever because it's true. Like at the end of the day, you're there to help tell the story. Again, it's about
Mhm.
telling the story, making sure your audience feels and can move through it and
Mhm.
just enjoy the whole process. Sometimes you're like, "Well, what happened here?" or "What."
Mhm.
But when you know that, like, okay, I was cut, but I was fortunate enough to be a part of the production. They
That's
picked
right.
me. I was there, I had that experience. Um, I got to learn and grow. Then,
Mhm.
okay, it did not serve the purpose of the film, the project, and I'm okay with that. I gotta let it go. I gotta let it go. I was blessed to be there, and that's what matters, you know? So
Mhm.
that's fantastic right there. And, going on to the production side of things, what was your to date, the ones that
Mhm.
you can talk about at least. I know there's probably some you can't mention at the moment, probably under
Mhm.
NDA, which that's totally understandable, but the projects to date that you can speak of, which
Mhm.
one has been, like, your favorite? Like, uh, just
Mm.
yeah, your just favorite, the whole process, just and why, all the things. Go.
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question. It's like asking someone like, "What's your favorite movie?" It's like, "Well, what
Yeah.
genre? Narrow it down for me," right?
Yeah.
All right, so I have like 2 go-to answers for
Okay.
this.
Okay, that's fair.
One is gonna be Stranger Things because that was
So
my very first role. I want everyone to know that was my very first role. I had a
really?
small co-star, it was one scene in the first season before it became this hit cult following phenomenon that it turned into.
Oh my
Um, so
gosh.
nobody knew what it was, I was excited because it
Yeah.
was my first role. I mean, there's magic in having that first credit. That's what got me
Absolutely.
SAG eligible. So or sorry,
Wow.
I should take it back. That's what made me a must join. And so I don't know, I just thought like, "This is it," like, "This
Yeah.
is the milestone I've been waiting for," right? And it took years. I mean, it took years and years after quitting medicine to become an actor, like, years for
Yeah.
this to happen, but it happened. And for me, it was like, I need to remember every moment of this day?
Mhm.
There was a lot of awkwardness, not gonna lie. There's some moments I think back now and I'm like, "Cringe." But overall, it was just such a beautiful moment for me, and I learned so much. And I don't you'll I'm never gonna get that magic moment back, right? Because now it's like, I've done it, right? But
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the next one where it's like, "Oh, this is my first guest star. This is my first recurring. This is my first series regular. This is my first lead." There will be those moments, but man, that moment on Stranger Things was so beautiful to me. And the fact that it became what it became opened so many doors for me that I was never even expecting.
Oh.
Um, I would be completely remiss not to say that was, like, a beautiful one for me. Another one that was more recent, it's not necessarily, like, the biggest roles, but it's sometimes magic just hits, right? I was fortunate enough to get on, Magn I worked in Hawaii a couple times. I did Magnum PI, the new reboot one, and then I worked on NCIS Hawaii, and both times it was like, I get there and I just kinda wake up in my hotel and I see the beach, and that was like a moment where it's like, not only do I get to wake up and do what I love to do, but I get to travel, and
Oh,
for me,
yeah.
traveling was always so important to me. So it's like getting to combine those things and just, I don't know, kinda look at it that way, it's like the merging of all the favorite parts of my worlds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So and that's different from, like, driving down the studio in LA to go someplace. This is like, I'm in Hawaii, like, this is
Yeah.
amazing.
So
And,
cool.
just getting to work with really, I don't know, just experienced professional actors and getting to watch them work and learn from that, and then getting
Yeah.
good feedback from the directors. Some directors, you come in as a day player and they're just like, "Okay, thank you." They see hundreds of us, right?
Yeah.
"Okay, thank you. I don't," some of them are not as invested in you as a day player because, you know, you're
Yeah.
only there for 5 lines or something.
Right.
But when you have a director that comes through and is like, "That was great. I have no notes. Do it
Oh,
again. It was beautiful." That is like, reinforcement to the soul. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah,
Like,
I
it's
do.
one thing for your mom to be like, "Oh, you were great," but then to get that from the director, you're like, "Oh, thank you so
I
much."
know.
I'd like to thank all the background actors, you know what I mean? It's just, it's so great.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I feel like don't ever lose that magic, because every single thing, no matter how many times you've done something, you're gonna find a moment that just reinforces your soul.
Mhm.
And, um, I forgot what the original question was now, but favorite productions. Yeah, I think those 2 kinda just, like, stand out for me because they were, like, holy shit moments for me. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I could just imagine it, and I would be over the moon just like you, absolutely. We're all that's what we're striving for, and even though you'll never get that moment back, you'll get another moment in, like,
Mhm.
there's levels, and that
There's so many levels. You're
so
never gonna
many
stop
levels.
growing.
But I
Mhm.
completely agree with you when it comes to the director versus
Yeah.
like,
It's
okay, mom, you're
great.
supposed to say that, but, like, the director, it's like it's that validation that we are
It
searching
is.
for
It
in a way,
is.
as
Mhm.
actors, like, it matters to us because
Mhm.
we're always trying to please in a way and do our best job,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so when you get that, wow, I can just imagine that feeling because that
Mhm.
would be on a good production like that too, like solid stuff. It's like
Mhm.
he or she has been doing this and knows their stuff, like, and you're taking the time to thank you,
To talk to
like
little old me?
yeah.
'Cause also, I mean, think
So
about it this way, right? Like, this industry is so, I don't know, like, "How was that?" "Oh, that was great. Yeah, that was great. That was fine.
yeah,
That was fine." Like, no one's gonna tell you, "No, that sucked," right? If anyone is gonna tell you it wasn't good, it's gonna be the director because they're gonna say, "Alright, well, let's try it this way.
right.
Let's try something different." Like,
Yeah.
they might be nice about it, but if anyone's gonna tell you no, that wasn't it, it's gonna be the director, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So for them to kinda, like, take the moment and actually say something good, it's like, it means so much. It really
Oh,
means so much.
yeah, so much because you just said it there, take the time because,
Mhm.
it's go, go, go on set too most of the time,
Right,
and,
right.
like, they took the time to
Mhm.
tell you that.
Mhm.
That is everything, and
It's
you're
special.
amazing, so it's not surprising that he told or he or she told you that, but,
Mhm.
yeah, that's really cool, but have you had any, like, bad experiences working on any productions, like, nightmare, like, oh my
Mm.
have you?
I would say on any, like, on a professional level production, I feel like I haven't had nightmare situations. I
Yeah,
feel like by the time you get to a certain level, everyone, the actors, directors, I feel like you kinda learn to not sweat the small stuff, and you recognize that, kind of like being that bad energy person on set doesn't make anything better at all.
Ah,
you know? I think people
okay.
kind of find their groove in things. So I won't say there's any nightmares.
That's cool.
Um, I will say there's like, maybe less than pleasant moments. So there are, and this is like outside of anyone's control. This is just funny stories at this point. But like when you're having to film in opposite seasons, that gets really hard.
Oh,
Like having
man.
to film late fall or winter scene in the middle of like 100-degree summer weather, and you're trying to like wear all these wool coats and be cold and not let your sweat show, that's a little
Right.
challenging. Or
Oh,
vice
that
versa,
is
you're wearing these little like summer outfits, but it's like 60 degrees outside. That's a little rough.
okay. Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of nightmare stories, I will say, from my days doing background back in the day. Like, there's some productions that treat background actors better than others. And sometimes they treat you as setting and forget that you're out there.
Right.
But for the most part, yeah, not a whole lot of nightmare scenarios. I'm very
That's
fortunate.
awesome.
I know they exist for sure. I
Right.
know they exist,
Right. Well,
but I've been very fortunate.
I'm glad nothing huge and horrible has happened to you. That's fantastic. I
Mhm,
love hearing that.
mhm.
And do you think that that could be like, I mean, definitely because of the production sizes, because you are SAG, right? A
Yeah,
SAG
yeah. I think
actor.
there's different levels. I know like the indie production, sometimes things get a little dicey. Sometimes you get, little questionable moments, but for the most part, like listen to your gut feeling is my advice for that. Listen to your gut. If you get onto any production of any size, um, if something tells you something's not quite right or you don't feel safe or someone's not being appropriate, listen to your gut, say
Yeah.
something. I know it's kind of
Yes.
hard when you're starting out. You feel like there's oh, well, I don't want to be a diva, or I don't want to get in trouble, or I don't want to get blacklisted.
Yeah.
Listen to your gut. There's resources and hotlines and phone numbers and you know different you know uh layers of people that you can go to for a reason, whether it's
Yeah.
the AD or the director or the producer or your agent, or maybe even someone else you can confide in who has the platform to say something. Like listen to your gut, because
Absolutely.
the last thing you want is to end up in a position that compromises your safety or your mental health, um, and then have that kind of ruin the experiences for you moving forward.
100%.
Like you don't
Yeah.
want that.
Thank you for saying that. No, that is huge. That is like a a big thing for me. I
Mhm.
don't know
Mhm.
because I'm not union, I'm not SAG yet, but who knows what will happen in the future. I don't know.
Mhm.
Just going with the journey. But
Right.
I do know like you guys are more kind of protected, I guess would be the right word, right? With certain
Yeah.
things. Like you have that
Mhm.
protection where us non-union actors, there's a lot more of that leniency to where things could go wrong. So
Definitely.
one thing like you saying the protect yourself, going with your gut, it's absolutely wonderful advice because a lot of us, you're right. We want to please and we want to come
Mhm.
across as you want to work with me again. However, say you were going to do a stunt and it didn't feel right and you knew it didn't
Mhm.
feel right, yet
Mhm.
you go to do it again and something happens. Either
Mhm.
it could be just a broken bone, it could just be a cut, sure,
Mhm.
but it could lead up to death too. You just
Right.
never ever know what the circumstances
Right.
is. Stunts
Right.
or even just somebody treating you wrong on set. Whatever
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
is, you have to speak up because if you
You have to
speak
be your
up,
own advocate. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's that's what the union is for later on, right? Like they're there to protect the actors, but until you join the union, you have to protect yourself
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
And another way to like reframe that thought too, for like non-union productions, like we're all growing, we're all rising together. You never know
Yeah.
who's going to end up being where later on. So yeah, you don't want to burn bridges. You want to be that person like I want you to want to work with me again. But flip the script there a little bit, right? If someone is making you feel uncomfortable, if someone is not treating you appropriately, if someone is willing to put your safety or your mental well being in danger, do you want to work with that person again? You know what I mean? So don't, like we're fortunate in the union to have like anonymous hotline numbers. We have intimacy coordinators, we have stunt coordinators. All of these things are baked into our contracts. But if just because it's a non-union production does not mean they should not be doing these things. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm,
just
mhm.
like they should be paying you, they should be providing all of the proper precautions to make sure
Yes.
that, they're respecting you not only as an artist, but as a human being, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
work with the people you continue to work with the people that you want to continue working with. That's the best way that I can say it. I've been on plenty of non-union productions where there's a little bit of sketchiness. My gut was kind of like, I'm not so sure about this. And you know what ends up happening? Every single time, those projects never see the light of day anyways.
Mm.
And I'm
Yep.
sure a lot of us can relate to that.
Yep.
Either they get shelved or scrapped, or that scene gets edited out, or it like pops up on YouTube for a hot minute, or goes to like one online virtual screening film festival, and then no one ever sees it again. So it's like,
Does.
was that really worth it? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, yeah. Yep,
So
absolutely. That's beautiful, Jackie. And, like, so for somebody just coming in or say, like, they're thinking about getting to acting or maybe they're
Mhm.
on their journey, but they don't know where to go, what would be, like, just one piece of advice that you would give them, like, moving forward?
Hmm. Treat it like a business.
Oh, solid.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I meet so many people who treat it like a dream, and I think there is a balance you have to find, right? Like, you have to have the passion for it. God, it's one of those industries where it's like, if you could imagine yourself doing anything else, do that. But if you can't live without being this, that's when you should do it, right? But understand not everyone is going to feel as passionate about you as you do about your career. So treat it like a business, do your research, find out what are they looking for? How can you make it work? What is a professional headshot? What's the proper way to format a resume? What is a demo reel? What is SAG? What does that mean? How do I join SAG? What is the difference between union and non-union? What does it mean to work in a right to work state? Like, where are the roles right now? What movie and show is filming where? Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between a commercial agent, a theatrical agent, a print agent? How do I get into VO voiceover? Do I even want to do voiceover? Like, it's just, there's so many different, if you think of it as a business, right? If you think of it as an industry, everyone comes into being an actor to be like, I want to be the leading lady, right? I want to be a series regular. I want to be on this show.
Yep.
But no one is like, you're not going to come out of college having studied like business and finance and go to like set up the meeting to become a CEO of a company. You know what I mean? You're not going to go to like Apple or Microsoft and be like, I want to be your next like CEO or manager or, head of the division. They're
Yep.
not going to do that. They're like, why? Why would we hire you? You have no experience. You don't know what you're doing, you know? But if you kind of see it from that way, like, get experience first, do your internship, whatever. Like, that's your background work, that's your student films, get some stuff on your resume, like, you need a resume to get a job, right?
Yep.
Get your headshots, that is your professional portfolio, your demo reel. That's like proof that you can do what you say you can do. Get an agent.
Exactly.
That's the next step. Like, figure out where you are, what's appropriate for your step there, and always keep your eyes ahead. What's the next step? What's the step after that? That's where you should always be striving for. Don't waste your
Yes.
time doing things that aren't going to get you anywhere. If you're going to be working hard, work smart. Don't be spinning your wheels doing junk stuff forever. Like, know your worth,
Yep.
understand, okay, I've made it to this level. This is what I'm going to do now. I think one of the hardest things that we do is we have a hard time saying no to things, I think a lot of times too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Any kind of opportunity comes, we're like, "Yes, let's
Yep.
do it. So happy. Thank you so much for this opportunity."
Uh-huh.
But the reality is like you are the face of your brand, you are the product.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly going to be like, "Okay, I'm on sale. I'm, on the bottom shelf of the 99-cent store," like that's what people are going to pay for. But
Yeah.
I, like, hate that I'm reducing ourselves to, like, a dollar store product right now,
It's
but, like, this
it's
is the analogy I
true.
started with, so now I just gotta finish it. But if you wanna start packaging yourself and saying, like, "No, this is what I'm worth now, like, my day rate is this. I don't work for less than," I have to have a speaking part, I don't do background anymore, I don't do student films anymore, I don't do this
Yep.
anymore, like, if you start to say, "This is what I'm worth," people around you will be like, that's what she's worth,
Yep.
and that's how your career grows. Self-reflection is important. Don't think you're further ahead than you are. Going back to the whole, like, I want to be a serious regular, but I have no
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
But I think if you have a smart head on your shoulders and you kind of look at it from that perspective and you're always, what can I bring to the table instead of what can you do for me? I
Yes.
think that is the mindset that's going to get you very far in this industry.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jackie. We're gonna wrap it up there because that is the best place to end this amazing episode with you. Thank you so
Aw,
much.
thank
I mean,
you.
just your insight and your positive energy and just everything that you brought today was absolutely amazing, and I
Aw.
cannot thank you enough. And if people want to find you, you do acting coaching, right? Like
I
classes?
do, yeah, I do
Where can they
coaching, I do some mentoring, yeah, I do. Well, I'm on the socials, I don't really do a whole lot on Facebook, but I'm on Instagram, and Twitter, Jax Dallas, JAXDALLAS. I have a website, jackiedallas.com. I do have coaching and, like, career consulting and stuff like that I do. All that information's on my website also. But, I love working with actors, like doing readings, helping tape for auditions, just giving advice because, Hollywood is so hard to navigate. And I've worked in all the different markets. I've worked in Atlanta, Chicago, New York, San Francisco. I'm in LA now. Hawaii, I'm bi-coastally represented. So, I've got a couple of, fingers in all the cookie jars. So
Yeah,
I've got a great mentor myself. My manager I've been with for over 10 years, some of my agents over 10 years. So
I love
happy
it.
to share the knowledge, I think, is the way to put
Awesome.
it. Like, no gatekeeping on my end.
Yeah. No, that's the way to be. And I'll link all that information in the show notes below. But thank you so much again, Jackie.
Mm.
Truly, from the bottom of my heart, I love you so much. I
Oh, I love
am
you, Shannon.
I'm just so happy to have you in my circle and so glad that you can be here with all of us and just share a little bit of your journey. And just thank you so
Mm,
much.
thank
And
you.
with that said, we're going to wrap up the day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends because the more people we can get on the show, the more the algorithms, they'll start working. So get that going so we can get more people over here to work on their mindset and pursue their dreams with full confidence. I love you guys. I'm so grateful for you. And again, thank you, Jackie. We love you. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.